Right. Okay. All right. So, are we good to go from Chitrakoot side, and are we live streaming? Are we good to go? Okay, cool. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll do opening prayers, and then we'll recap a little bit of what we did last time. And in this group, I know Chitrakoot, we were able to get some feedback on the 3 levels. In this group, I think we had some remaining, so I'd like you all to present. Just so I get an idea, do we have pairs or are we presenting in a group? Okay, so would you be able to present on their behalf? Are there anyone else, others, just so I know how many speakers there are? One more? Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, cool. So with that, we'll start with that and then get into our content for today. So, Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Eva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. All right, so last class, what we had seen was first harmony and poise comes from rising above the ego. This was the prior 2 chapters. Then in this chapter, we saw what was religion. Science and religion. And religion. And in this case, I can't spell today. Here, we saw that there were the 4 ages of evolution. 4 ages of evolution. One, does anyone remember what the 4 ages were? I think there was perception. Perception. Second one was? Observation. Then?
Science inquiry, age of science inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
And finally the age of contemplation.
Contemplation. I'm only putting this up on the board because it's going to come up again in the new chapter we're about to read. So I just want to keep a note of this. Then, after that, we saw what was religion. What's religion? And here, what were the 2 wings of religion?
Philosophy and rituals.
Philosophy. Phil and rich. That's how I'm going to spell it. Horrible abbreviation. These are just abbreviations. So, the final sentence or strategy that was given in this chapter of religion, what was the instruction given? What do we, when we approach religion, how are we supposed to practice religion?
Purpose and goal, theoretical, concentration of thoughts.
Okay. You're reading off of some notes from the past. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Almost there. Anybody else have an idea from this side? You have philosophy, you have ritualism. But what was the guideline given on how to practice religion? Sadhana is there, but how do we practice sadhana? I don't know. That's a different answer. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasanam. Yes, it's in our scriptures, but it's not in this context. So, no. Well, now we're getting closer. Amma said, having a little bit of knowledge, having discipline. So, yes, those are two components. What are we supposed to do with it? Okay, I'll clarify. I'll crystallize. There we go. We're almost there. Small baby steps. Baby steps. Little discipline. Plus little knowledge. Now, I'm not saying have very little discipline and have very little knowledge. That's not the meaning of the sentence. Meaning, I practice a little bit of self-discipline, and I back up that discipline with a little bit of knowledge of why. Then I do a little bit more of discipline, then I do a little bit more of knowledge. This constant right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot is how I progress in practicing religion. So this is where our little exercise came into relevance here. You take one sadhana, one particular topic. I can't remember all of them, but some of the ones that come to my mind that we covered last time was karma yoga is a philosophy or principle in Hinduism. Then you had japa was the other one. Does anyone remember what the third one was? Bhiksha, food, treatment of charity, danam. Controlling of speech, vakyam. Anything? Surrender. So these are big phrases. Sorry, go ahead. Nama smaran, so to remember or chant Bhagwan's name. Atonement. So prayaschitta, that's the word in Vedanta. Prayaschitta karma, meaning I've done something wrong, what do I have to do to fix it? Atonement, how do I do this? Point is, those topics gives us big concepts in our religion. Sorry. That shocked me a little. When you have big concepts in religion, you need both sides of it. What is the philosophy of karma yoga? What is the philosophy of dhanam? What is the philosophy of nama smarana? But then you also need the other side. How do I practice karma yoga? How do I practice dhanam? How do I practice, what was the other one? Japa, right? Any of that, you need both of them. Now to actually start doing it, what do I need to do? Little by little. I muted just the speaker, so there's no feedback loop. Yeah, that's all I've muted. Okay, so a little bit of each. This is a clear progression. Concept and religion, two sides of the concept, philosophy and rituals, and in order to practice that, I do little by little. So now let's get into the last couple of examples that were here. We will do 2 speakers today, right? So Amma, if you would be able to go first, and then Amma, be prepared to go second.
So I picked up the topic of Bhiksha. So with respect to, let's say a middle schooler, they would have learned in their elementary about the food pyramid. And food pyramid is like, let's say, the food chain or the food pyramid. So it is some way for them to understand what is good for them. When I talk about food pyramid, it means like, let's say, grains, vegetables, more of vegetables, the healthy one, and then followed by grains, which is less of, something that they learn. So that when they apply it, hopefully at home, they know how to pick the right, make the right choices. So that's the philosophy they learn in terms of food pyramid. And then ritualism is where they eat the food that is being offered to them by their parents. In other words, they don't have a whole lot of freedom to eat what they want, but rather they they get the offering, they take the food that is offered to them. So that's sort of a bhiksha by their parents. And then because they have no control over like what food to cook, what to eat, etc. So that's on the schools, middle school. As a grihastha, they understand the philosophy that even the food that they get, they depend upon, let's say, Mother Earth or nature, on society, to make that food possible, to bring that food to place where they can eat. That's one. That's the philosophy side. And on the ritualism side, they understand that they have the freedom to eat what they want, yet they know they have to exercise control and exercise control over their desires. They also realize that that's also bhiksha, that is, they have to work to go earn for the food. So it's sort of a bhiksha too. That's their dharma, to go earn, to get the food. And then the second part of the dharma is that they know in the same way they have to also give back to society. So perhaps they have to give bhiksha. Not only they seek bhiksha from society, but they have to give as well. So basically it is, let's say, charity, and that's his dharma. So they realize that it's their dharma. And as a brahmacharya, they have a knowledge that they have to surrender completely and drop that ego that is trying to look for the good food. They have to drop that ego. So no longer that their desires for taste controls them. They therefore also do not possess, collect any kind of a food. Meaning they don't gather food by themselves. Whatever comes to them in the course of day or whatever, they simply accept it. But on the ritualism side, they learn to give up their, of course, desires. They only eat that is needed to sustain their body. And I think you just mentioned in the satsang today that they also understand in terms of ritualism that they cannot let food or hunger obstruct the path of sadhana. And the brahmacharis also give up the I through the bhiksha process.
Okay, not bad, not bad. One thing, if you don't mind, I'm going to start picking apart a couple of these and then add a couple of thoughts here. One, food pyramid is outdated. Even nutritionists have canceled this out. So I will replace food pyramid with Ayurveda. Same idea is there. So I'm accepting the idea. I'm just making that example a little bit more clear. Because if I have been around people that talk about diets and food programs, and it's become quite an industry on its own self. And there was some food analysis where they're like, okay, you need a lot of protein. So now you have like, especially, I'm looking back there because we have a youth here, but how many of your friends have like protein bars or like the jars of protein powder? He's nodding yes. Yeah, right? Where now they're going to that extreme, saying every meal has to have 2 cups of protein in there, right? And then there are others that saying, okay, you only need to have salads. Okay, my point is, these are all different things that people are trying to figure out what is the best nutritious scheme to have. I would say, honestly, go back to Ayurveda. They have figured it out. They have figured it out a long while ago. And a lot of our traditional cuisines that are within our own culture now automatically have this Ayurveda built into it because it's part of our tradition and culture. So if you don't know anything else, go back and take ashraya, the refuge in our traditions in that way. So I'm gonna come to that just for a second, because that's gonna go into this part here. So when it comes, one example in Ayurveda that I have heard is that there needs to be a balance of protein, veggies, nutrients, and carbs. You can't cut out everything. And even the presence of ghee is also important. You see all these sciences come out, but honestly, I would recommend, if we can, search, read through what Ayurveda is all about and what can they offer for that. What was the purpose of going into this? The purpose is treat it like, and I'm jumping here, but it applies, right? That hunger and taking care of this body is a necessity. We cannot leave this. This is a vehicle we're going to be using for the rest of our life, down to the last swas, the breath. So I have to do the best. What does this vehicle need? Just like how you have a Prius, Tesla versus the big pickup trucks versus the 18-wheelers, right? These are all vehicles that we use. Can I put diesel in a Tesla? No. Can I take the charger of a Tesla and put it in an 18-wheeler? No. Whatever that body requires for its longevity and maintenance, I have to look into it and understand what it's required and give it what it needs. Nothing more. So this is the idea of Ayurveda. It's not about, fanciness and what do I like, what do I dislike. No. What does your body need? It needs protein, it needs nutrients, and it needs to do it in an organic and healthy manner that's not polluted with chemicals. What are we dealing with? What are the problems? How do I fix it? How do I make sure that I've taken care of this body well? This is the idea of this Bhiksha. This is what's built behind it. Now, for kids, you cannot ask them, treat your body like it's a disease. They're gonna be like, what? You can't put it in those terms. But at least what you're trying to do, this particular principle, I will appreciate this one. This practicality, eat what has been given to you. Because what we're acknowledging here is the child might not have knowledge of what is good for me, what is not good for me. Who are they relying on? Parents. So that becomes the next thing. It's related. So they have, if you are their parents and you have to guide their health, you've taken on that responsibility, they have to maintain the responsibility of eating what's given without likes and dislikes. So this is why we see with our own kids, especially back in the day, don't get up until you've finished every last grain of rice on that plate. Mama, I don't want to, I'm full, no, finish. Nothing doing. Why? Because it is not just about them getting nutrition, you are also challenging them to learn to live above their likes and dislikes. This is a very important skill. And I was sharing this in the Satsang because this statement, Bhikshau Shadam Bhujyatam, comes up in Sadhana Panchakam. There was a story where the father was scolding the child, saying, you are not going to get up until you finish everything on your plate. Your mother has cooked enough. It is nutritious for you. Eat it. And then there was an uncle that came out. People that visit always have good commentary, right? Why are you pestering that child? Leave him alone. He's going to start hating you for this. He's going to start hating food. Why are you, being so harsh on him? Father had a really good answer. If he cannot conquer his likes and dislikes with what he receives on his plate, then how is he going to deal with his likes and dislikes when he receives things in life that he may not like or dislike? Can the child run away from life just like he ran away from the plate? No. So he better learn the skill of learning to deal with things he doesn't like. It starts at home. It starts on that plate. Then he learns a life lesson from that moment. So the focus is, so honestly, what I would change here, not just Ayurveda, I'll rearrange this just a little bit here. The philosophy is learn to deal with likes and dislike. Health is important. These are the two important vehicles. I need to know what is healthy. Why is my parents forcing me to eat karela? It's so bitter. Why? Because it's important. And At the same time, medicine, I don't fuss around. I don't like the taste of medicine. It tastes like mint. It tastes like, well, take it anyways because it's important. So this is a life skill. So I would say here, eat what has been given. Don't waste food. I'll put another one here. Gratitude. These three simple things come from that practice. Now, the same principle now applies to grahastha, but they are now taking care of that child now. You have an added responsibility. So your knowledge base has to become a little bit more. So in this case, not just dependence on the world here, become educated on Vedic basics. I'm not asking you to become experts in Ayurveda. Basics, right? And think back to traditions where your grandparents and great-grandparents, the traditions you come from in India, they have roots of truth in them. We've come all the way to the US and we try to adopt the new culture so much that we lose sight of the wealth of knowledge that was inbuilt into our traditions without us even knowing. We had a healthy, balanced diet without even knowing Ayurveda because we followed what our parents used to give us. So in a way, coming back to this logic is important because now you have the added responsibility, not only your own body, but the body of your children. You are now the feeders of them. You're taking care of them. So you better become more educated on what they require. I've seen during pregnancy stages, newborn ages, don't the mothers fret so much? When can my child start having milk, or when do they wane off of it? When do they start to eat? Can they have water? Can they not have water? They're worried because they want to take care of this child and they need more knowledge in order to take care of them. So now do we see how the philosophy has now increased and now our responsibility has also increased? Now a child is looking at us. If I become picky with my own plate and I start cooking things that I like, what will the child do? Put a clear mirror in front of our face saying, you're doing it, therefore I can. So there's now added pressure to become just as disciplined with that. Then, when it comes to disciplines around food, paying attention and the gratitude, then I'll bring back the point that you said. The, how do I phrase this? World's involvement to produce food. So now I am grahastha is the main ashrama where it's an exchange. I take and I also give. So I would definitely say giving bhiksha and annam as a practice is my involvement in the world outside. Think back to Makara Sankranti. This is something I'd seen from my family. Don't we share grains on that day of celebration? And during every utsava, don't we put boldly on our flyers, you're welcome to bring naivedyam? Why? Because we're now giving food to the society that I'm a part of. If I cannot take care of my neighbor and my society, how will society take care of me? There is a perfect balance. This is called the wheel of karma chakra, given in chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan says those that take without giving are known as hypocrites. They are thieves of this world. Those that take without giving first. So I will add that here. Yajna. Or to give before taking. This is yajna, and then the opposite, corollary, you're known as a thief. Sorry, spelling's not working today in my head right now. If you are to give before taking, then you are performing yajna. If you take before you give, you're known as a thief. And Bhagwan like really cuts you down in Gita if you act like this. Therefore, we would not only have to control the choices of food, I would definitely say check. We have to control because now we have added pressure. Someone is watching me now and I have to set the example. On top of that, earn with dharma. So that's the idea that comes from yajna spirit. And finally, annadana. That becomes an added part of our responsibility. Learn to give to society around us. So things like the sandwich sevas that we do. It's our small way of instilling this practice in the kids. But don't you think parents should be involved in this too? They just drop off their kids and go. It's like, hey, you also come set examples with your parents. Next time when you find these opportunities, you also be part of it with your kids whenever the opportunity is there. So annadanam becomes an important thing. And finally, as you mentioned for brahmacharis, we are now, the more advanced state, we have completed responsibilities. We are not grahastas. We are not those that are earning from society. We are not ones that are having children to depend on us. That's not part of my natural state of being a brahmachari. Instead, where is my priority? Atma jnana and Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, just to pull back of that answer from before, that is where my focus is. So where should be food involvement here? It's at highest state. May it never become my distraction. May my ego and its likes and dislikes not come up again. Therefore, I will go to the far extreme and rely on Bhagwan to say, what comes to me comes, what doesn't come to me doesn't come. What I get, it is not out of likes and dislike I eat. If Bhagwan wants to take care of this body, he will, because my focus is merging with the essence. So this is the instruction that comes from Sadhana Panchakam. Kshudvyadhishya chikitsyatam. Hunger, disease is always there. May you quickly treat it. How do I treat it? Bhiksha oshadam. The bhiksha is my aushadhi, this medicine. Swadvanam natu yachatam. Swada anna, the tasteful hankering, I want really good food. Give that hunger up. Hunger for taste, not hunger for food. There's a difference. That cravings is what has to become dropped. Vidhi vashat praptena santushyatam. Because of prarabdha, whatever I gain, may I be santosha with it. That's the highest philosophy. Therefore, we see practices like bhiksham dehi, bhiksham dehi. So, ammas come and feed us, and we are so grateful for that. And even in traditions, they would go to each house saying, Amma bhiksham dehi. We chant verses like, Annapurne sadapurne shankara pranavallabhe. Bhagwan, you have sent Devi as Annapurna Devi who sent me to feed me and take care of me. You are that greatness. This food becomes my puja. This food becomes my japa. Therefore, I bring it to the highest state. But what is the main thread in all of this? This really awful thing called likes and dislikes. It will plague us all the way to the end. But we're addressing it little by little. First, it's a physical thing of just deal with what's on your plate, eat it. Okay, then I understand, how do I have proper food? And am I giving to others as well? That is also an appreciation to rise above likes and dislikes. Finally, we go to the ultimate state. Do we see the progression of sadhana? Little knowledge, little practice. Little knowledge, little practice, and we keep building until we reach that highest state. Okay? Good one. This is good. Now, I'll erase this. And Amma, would you like to, if you want to take a quick picture, please do. Screenshot. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Done. Okay. So Amma, if you can tell us, what was the topic you picked?
I picked Dhanam.
Okay, go ahead.
So for a middle schooler, I picked as Vidyadhan, the ritual that they do is Vidyadhanam or donate time, like in food drive. And the philosophy behind it is help a friend or somebody who is struggling with studies, either in a lower class or the same grade. and for donating time, it's like volunteer in food drive. So be aware of things that are happening in your society so that you can be aware and see how you can help. For the parent, I looked into like the ritual as annadanam and donating money for a worthy charitable cause in the society. What the reasoning is that this is the only group that is earning money. So they research on effective charitable institutions to make a donation, make a difference in the society by donating food, clothes, etc. And contribute to disaster recovery in the community, nation, or even the world.
Okay.
On brahmacharis, I picked Vidyadanam. Help disseminate the knowledge of the scriptures into understandable, practical nuggets of wisdom in satsangs within the community so that they can put it into use in their day-to-day life, and in a larger setup, lecture in larger gatherings to provide the knowledge that is in the scriptures in a more graspable way so that the society as a whole can adopt it.
Okay. So, if we think about the relationship between Bhiksha and Danam, don't we see a similar thread? Philosophy-wise, it's very similar. What I'm giving changes. Danam is more broad, it covers everything. Annam is more specific to food. Why? Because of all the things we can give, food, it has a very special place. We can't live without it. And it said that, I think this was a story from Naraji. Narad Muniji went to Kuberji and said, I have these different bowls. You are the giver of wealth. Please fill up these bowls. First one was a copper, I might be taking the details into exaggeration, but the bhava is still the same. First he gives a copper bowl, then a silver bowl, then a gold bowl, then he gives them a white bowl. Every other bowl he was able to fill. But with this white bowl, he was not able to. And so Kuberji was like, what is this bowl made of? Like, why? I keep filling it. It endlessly, keeps going away. What is this bowl? He said, this is the human skull. Why? Because we have endless desires. Nothing will ever fill it. So then he said, okay, fine. He goes to Annapurna Devi, takes a rice, fills it, and it finally stops. Why? Because it's the only time when it comes to food that we say, Boss, I'm done. I can't. Even if you had desserts and you have a second stomach for it, even then you'll say enough. The Annapurna Devi is the only one that can somehow give us satisfaction in this conundrum of dissatisfaction. So therefore, Bhiksha and Danam have similar thread. That's why Bhiksha is set a little bit separate. She's very special. But Danam, so the same idea becomes important. You see the commonality, right? So here, because, and I like the distinction you made here, that Grihasthas are the only ones that earn. So they have extra responsibilities here. So they have to do their research. This, I'm really glad you mentioned this. Because in Puja Gurudev's commentary on Danam, he says, don't be lazy in your Danam. What I give, if it's their prarabdha, I don't have to do my research, it goes wherever it goes. He says, no. You have to make sure that the Danam is given at the right time, to the right place, to the right recipient. Because Danam is to help uplift society. You are the resource maker. You have to make sure the resources are given in such a way the whole society grows. If I kept giving Danam to a gangster, what am I perpetuating? Crime and dissolution in society. If I keep giving money to a drug addict and he keeps spending it on drugs, how have I improved his life? What was the purpose of Danam? To uplift. Dharma means to uphold. Part of my dharma is Danam. If my Danam is causing chaos Am I performing dharma? No. Therefore, research. Do not be lazy. Do your thorough research. Follow that money all the way to the end. Is it going to the right cause? Is it having the right effect long term? If it's not, be proud to say, no, this is not worth it. I'm not just going to give because, I have to give. Let us, stand up, become proud, members of society to look for longevity. It takes time and effort. But that is this yajna. Yajna, you think of fire, right? Fire burns. There's a reason why. It takes effort to do the right thing. So I would say annadanam, charity, and recovery, disaster recovery. Sorry, my brain. Disaster recovery. There we go. These are all examples of taking part. Guru Dakshina, fair enough. Right? For that vidya that was given, Guru Dakshina as well. Meaning, like, for example, in California, there was a fire incident that happened, hurricanes happen. Suddenly, in a moment, there's suddenly a disaster that happens that the whole community has to come and support. It's not a daily thing. It's an extraordinary circumstance that requires extraordinary efforts to chip in. So I would also count that as well. Okay. Now, student, like you mentioned, doesn't earn. But their focus is, go study. Vedo nityamadhiyatam. So their purpose is to study, but to help each other, to serve, tutoring, right? Helping each other grow and develop and fulfill their duties to support is a form of dhanam in themselves. And the act of learning to become prepared in grahastha, if you can also get them to participate and show them how to give dana, you can get them to also understand. Which is why in Chinmay Mission we always say the whole family has to participate. It's not just the parents, it's not just the adults. The whole family has to participate because one supports the other. And finally here, that is why Puja Gurudev, when he came out, his dhanam was jnana yajnas, the offering of rituals. Offering of knowledge as his contribution to society. How many people came to him for support, needed guidance? The one who is in touch with the scriptures, how can he not give? How can he have stayed locked up in the Himalayas? That is why Puja Gurudev, having seen Ganga Devi come rushing out, how she nourishes everybody from that source, he said, this scripture is no longer, it needs to be updated. People are not coming to it to be nourished, therefore she has to come out and nourish all. So yeah. But do we see the same thread of philosophy behind bhiksha and dhanam? It's the same thing. Little by little, things improve, right? So now, one main topic that I will pull out of today's discussion is our involvement in society. Our involvement in society becomes a really important topic here because that acts as the transition for the next chapter we see in this text here. That is Yajna, spirit. This Yajna spirit is to take part in society around me. Now, what is the title of this next chapter we're going to see? This is called Vitals of a Nation. Vitals of a Nation. So let's get a sneak peek into this book here. So you're going to have to give me page numbers. The chapter is called Vitals of a Nation. In the brown book, and there's a newer edition here. In my book, it is chapter 21 on page 56, but in your book it might be 55, page 55 in the brown Kindle book, and the latest version. Vitals of a Nation. $66? 60. Are you able to find it? No? Mm-mm. May I take a sneak peek in the book? Chapter 17, page 60. Okay, so Amma, what was it again? 56? 55 and 60. So it's on one of those pages. So Uncle, would you be able to start us off?
A population living in geographical areas would not itself constitute a nation. It's just mere numbers, a multitude of human beings. But when the members live together with an integrated program and strive the diligence and devotion for the achievement for a common goal, one sees the formation and glorious achievement of a nation. As long as a human being disintegrated, each one self-centered and seeking his private ends, regardless of others, with no alliance whatsoever, a common cause, they can never make a nation. The scientific, economic, and political philosophy have time and again given out revolutionary schemes with present an artificial look of integration during the initial enthusiasm, but by themselves none of these schemes can never succeed in creating or building up a true nation.
Okay, pause. So here, who's teaching Hindu culture right now? Teacher has to be here. But if we were to open up the introduction of Hindu culture, the definition of culture is given right here. It echoes the same philosophy here. That a population can be in common with the geography and time, but the real essence of it should be the devotion to a common goal. Then, when this bhava is there, suddenly you see them come together as one. So, for example, I'm going back into the freedom fighting era of Puja Gurudev's biography. When we wanted independence in Bharat, don't you see people coming together across the nations? That if one movement of Gandhiji sparked so much oneness in others around. And I have to reference they call it the Sepoy revolt? Yeah. But they're, mutiny, that was the word. It's not a mutiny. When the goal is to become independent, to come out of suppression and oppression, it's a revolution. So I'll call it Sepoy revolution here. 1857 was that date. And what was this? This is when we recognized that the armies of the British army military were mostly Indians. Because if you think about it, UK is like tiny. Where did they get all the force to conquer this entire nation? Where did they come from? All those that were colonized. They made up the 90% or 80% of the military that was there. Who was in the leadership positions? These British officials. So they realized we are the carpet, they are the legs. So if we need to get out from under them, we need to pull together and in a unified fashion create a revolution. So what did they do? They came this close. We would have gotten independence in 1850s. After this moment, it still took 100 years to come back. Why? Because in that moment, all of the military Bharatiyas that were in that military, they agreed on one specific day at the same time, north, south, east, west, all across Bharat, on all naval ships, on all air forces, in all army areas, all at once at the same time, they will revolt against the British leader. They can't do anything. We have outnumbered them if we are coordinated. They almost did. There was one or two betrayal, I think, if my history is correct, but it wasn't quite successful, but we almost had it. From that point onwards, if you study any of the policies given by the British civilization afterwards, it was out of sheer fear of what potential we had within us, and therefore they put down laws so that this revolution won't ever happen again. Therefore, it took another 100 years to come out of this. But look at how an entire nation can come together when there is a common goal. Now, for us, we are not in freedom fighting. We've moved on from that era. Now we're struggling with what is this common goal? I am an American, I am an Indian, I am, what. We have lost it. We have a harder time trying to come together on a common goal. Therefore, you see more and more disintegration. So Puja Gurudev had the foresight to see this coming. He said, I think in one, and I might be misquoting, but I'll have to check this, but India may have gotten independence, but Indians have not gotten independence. We may have become freed, but we have no idea where to go from here. We have no culture to tap into that keeps the people together. What is that philosophy that we live on that keeps us together? We were kept together because of a temporary goal of freedom fighting and getting our independence. But after that, what are we aligning with? None of us have something in common. That is why he saw that going back to the scriptures, seeing the wealth of knowledge we have, the wealth of identity we have as Sanatana Dharmis, and the goal of moksha and upholding dharma. Now that's something to go behind. That's a common goal worth living for. Do the people know it? Absolutely not. He said he himself, who has double major, who at that time getting a master's degree was so rare. He's like a genius during that time. He himself didn't know what was in our shastras. He said, how could this be? Why could we be so oblivious to our own Sanatana Dharma principles, this common vision that can uplift society? Why don't we know this? Therefore, he took up the need, saying, just like how Ganga Devi fed this world, this nation who got newly freed needs nourishment to keep together for this common goal. That is why he took up Jnana Yajnas to feed that fire. So, that, again, that's still history. How does this still apply to us today? Let us keep seeing this. And in the next paragraph, you saw that when it comes to other philosophies, somewhat of a common cause, scientific, economic, and political philosophies have time and again given revolutionary schemes which present as artificial look of integration. That is, Puja Gurudev is like taking a knife to our like current understanding. Having scientific goal, economic goal, political goal actually don't bring integration. So now think back to any family conversations you've had about the grander scheme of the nation. What has our conversations been around? Where is this wealth and this money? Where is the wealth in this world? Is it being distributed right? What are we talking about? Economics. You have the blue party and the red party. We have this president or that president. Where is this nation going? What are we talking about? Politics. Okay, there's green energy, there's gasoline. Where is this country going? Is it protecting the globe? Where is conservation? What are we talking about? Scientific. Have any of us come to an agreement? This has been an age-old conversation. So I'm like highlighting and underlining. Artificial look of integration during the initial enthusiasm by themselves. So that second paragraph really is like, okay, we need to reevaluate what we're doing here. What is this common goal that we want to look at? Let's continue and see what Puja Gurudev has to say. Any volunteer? Let me come to this side. I've heard a lot from this side. Uncle's in the back. Would you like to take it up? Okay, we still have 10 minutes, okay.
The schemes of the objectives, scientists never deal with man as such. They are only concerned with the environments and circumstances and not with the individual. But a nation is composed of individuals, and its nature and strength are essentially rooted in the texture and quality of the individuals comprising it. How then could a nation be built by mere enhancement of wealth, improvement of social laws, or advancement of science and technology?
If you can pass it to the next person.
This does not mean that the political revolution, economic planning, and scientific progress are to be disregarded or cast aside. Wealth, amenities, and social orders have no doubt their own particular significance, but go only as far as they can, and will be rendered negative if the individuals manning them are wanting in integrity of character, which constitutes the very backbone of the country, of a country.
One more.
The political workers introduce dogmas, bring about reforms, and endeavor to ensure that their country looks the best in the eyes of the world. Nevertheless, when the individuals in any country have no national consciousness or a feeling of love and fraternity, internal struggles and strifes arise and sap the very root of the politician's idea of a united and progressive nation. Many a great empire has thus met its downfall and sunk into oblivion.
Okay. One more, we need to see the economic field now. Or Amma, if you have, okay, fair enough. Book and mic getting passed around.
Again, in the economic field, the economists try to bring about wealth and material prosperity to the nation, but material prosperity, whatever be its dimensions, can achieve no purpose worth the name without integrity and strength of character among us, the people at large. Where there is moral and culture degradation, there is bound to be aggrandizement and exploitation culminating in impoverishment.
Okay. And the last one, the
Sorry.
scientific field. Uncle, would you be able to take this?
Similarly, all scientific achievements can be a blessings to mankind only as long as man is rational and ethical. But if he loses his discrimination and flouts all moral and ethical values of life, employs his knowledge in destructive channels, these achievements become a curse and threat to mankind. This is what we find in the human situations of the day. Whatever be the development and progress in the objective fields of inquiry, a population does not acquire the recognition or status of a nation unless it is knit together with the bonds of character and principles of service and sacrifice. This dynamic spirit of togetherness can be achieved by religion alone.
This is like the epic mic drop from Puja Gurudev, right? With each of these fields, they have their purpose. We can't do away and saying, I'm not going to be political, I'm not going to get involved in economics or be involved in scientific research. Each one has its place. You have policies that are helped to guide and manage people. You have economy that deals with wealth, and you have science that is the edge of research and development and analysis. They all are required. But do each of them on their own give us national consciousness and national love? Not really. Does it give us the strength of individual character? How about rational thinking and ethics? No. Which is why, this is like another main sentence in this paragraph that I'm holding on to. Dynamic spirit of togetherness, religion alone can give. This is why religion is needed in spite of having all of this. There's this false idea that we pick up. Pseudoscience, neo-intellectuals, where we hear the statement, separation of church and state. We separate religion from the practicalities of life. Again, that's a Western issue. That is a Christian issue. Does that apply to our Hinduism? No, because Hinduism, when we say Sanatana Dharma, that has dharmic shastras inbuilt, what is it dealing with? Integration, yeah, literally everything. It is the backbone of all these other fields. Therefore, having understood Dharma Shastras with moksha as the goal, then you have the relevance of Niti Shastras, then Ayurveda Shastras, Jyotisha Shastras. All of these other fields are well explained and expanded upon. They're needed as long as we have this as the foundation. So let's take, for example, this strength of character, moral ethics, and national love. I'm going to pick a controversial topic here. The atomic bomb developed during World War II. They took scientific advancements. In fact, if you study World War II, you'll see airplanes become better, communication become better, like all like modern advancements were like hyperdrived during those 5-10 years because of scientific research during the middle of a war, because they needed it for war. Okay? Then you have policies. When and how should the atomic bomb be used? When is it justified? When is it not justified? What are the resources? Disaster, like the wealth of Japan, wealth of Europe. What is the chaos that happens in terms of resources when an instrument like the atomic bomb is set off? Can economy, politics, and science actually put a checkpoints on all of that? No. Can national love, individual character, and their alignment with morality keep that in check? Yes. Because if I'm saying in an ideal position, ideally, if someone has all of these, then an atomic bomb is like, okay, what was Oppenheimer's issue? If anybody's seen that movie, he hates his life at the end of his life. He regrets having been involved in that Manhattan Project to create these atomic bombs because he realizes how much he's put at risk. Because what's lacking? This. There are no ethics, there are no trust in individual character. We don't have trust in national love. Look at how much falls apart when we don't have this. But at the same time, if you look to Mahabharata and Ramayana, you have Brahmastra. Who received Brahmastra in Mahabharata war? Weren't there a couple characters that received this knowledge? They were given this weapon. You have Sudarshana Chakra, where he lent it to, I'm sorry, I'm getting my stories confused, but at some point I remember even Bhagavan Krishna lent his Sudarshana Chakra. How? Why? It's almost as bad as this atomic bomb. Like, what are we talking about here? There you had Dharma Shastras, there you had Niti Shastras. People were held together for the protection of Dharma. Whole different scenario. So, in Sanatana Dharma that is designed to look for longevity, for the upliftment of all, from the individual all the way to the national, do we not need this more than ever now in this modern day and age? We often dismiss it saying, religion is religion, it's only ritualism, it's superstition. See, now I'm bringing back vocabulary from the past. It's not perception, it's not observation. It's not just a scientific inquiry, it is the age of contemplation. What is the grand scheme of things? When we come back to this, rising above the individual ego, rising to identify with a national identity, rising to see the spirit of togetherness, which is yajna. That comes all through chapter 3. What I'm trying to say is the repetition of thought. Are you catching it in all of these chapters? The only way to have harmony and poise is when we literally rise above our ego. We have to become more and more disgusted with our own ego, saying, you are the cause of my problem. I need to get rid of you. That fire should be set in front of us, because look at how much it can affect us. Not only from an individual level, but from a national level as well. So I think we only have two more paragraphs left. Let's see the culmination of Puja Gurudev's ideas here. Real quick, last three, and then we'll end on this, because I don't want to leave this hanging. Go ahead.
Philosophy is a pure science of life, and when translated into practical living, it is termed religion. In other words, religion may be said to be an applied science of life. A faithful adherence to religious precepts and doctrines develops a proper sense of integrity amongst individuals who go to constitute a healthy community. The coordinated and inspired efforts of such human beings alone can build up a nation.
Okay. Amma, if you can just finish out that page. Keep going.
Okay. A united country wherein each citizen is inspired to give out his very best in the spirit of selfless dedication, demanding nothing for himself except the privilege of serving the country, develops into a mighty nation, asserting itself with power, prestige, and strength. The dynamics of togetherness is therefore to be discovered immediately, more so in the context of present world. The answer to this great challenge of the times assures us of a continued future as a happy, united, and progressive nation, serving as a beacon for the restless world to follow and gain a more rewarding peace and a more meaningful progress.
Okay, so at the end of the day, we need religion. May we stand up to become the practitioner of such a religion that sees the foresight of uplifting all of those around. Become the example to see the change in the world around us. So this sets us up for the next chapter called What is Culture? There's religion, there's practice, but what is culture now? How does that get involved? This is where we're going in this thought process. So again, thank you so much for your patience, and hopefully there was new thoughts, new fires lit within. May it continue with that. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you so